So what can we learn from Shedeur Sanders sliding in the NFL draft last night? There are a few things. First of all, we want to ask the question, just how hard was Shedeur coached in the NCAAs and at Colorado? And this really goes to the ecosystem that we all come from as in our families, as we go from our families into adulthood. When you're growing up in a family, this is all of us for 18 years, 21 years, um, and then you go off to college, right? Okay, so you grew up in an ecosystem, right? It's a system that is designed differently than every other system that's out there, right? Similar but different. That's our families. Well, Shedeur Sanders certainly grew up in a different kind of ecosystem than me and you, right? Than most people, right? Okay. So when you get out of your ecosystem and you go into a bigger ecosystem, the world, there can be a culture shock. When I grew up in my family ecosystem and then I went to the military, I went straight to the military, 18, 19 years old. Guess what? It was a culture shock, especially going into the military, and I didn't do well. I didn't do well. I got into trouble. It was totally different than I thought, and I'm a great kid, great great person. Okay, so I had to learn the new ecosystem that I was in. Right, Shedeur Sanders is learning that the ecosystem of his family is different than the ecosystem of the NFL and of the general public. You grew up in a whole different ecosystem. So that goes back to my question. How hard was Shedeur actually coached? Those two things are the reason why he slid in the NFL draft. Is because what the other coaches are seeing, the coaches and the GMs and the scouts, they're seeing that, okay, we see the film and everything like that. And, we see the stats that he put up and everything like that. But guess what? Happens all the time when we draft players from the college level, from that ecosystem, and they get into the NFL and they fail. So we know what makes a good to great NFL player. You are not great. You are not first round worthy. Now he'll probably go in the second round. He may go in the second round. He may go in the third round. Who knows where he's going to go? Because Shedeur Sanders thinks that, obviously, from what we know, and yesterday I gave Coach Prime a lot of praise for being a great father, for mentoring young men, especially young black men, because we don't take accountability in our own culture enough. So I touched on that. Black men, black people in general, black men and women, we're not taking a Christian people. We're not taking accountability in what we can change and what we can do and what we should be doing and what we should be changing. I gave Coach Prime props last night on a video that I haven't released yet. But today I'm going to take a hit on Coach Prime and saying that I want to know how hard was Shedeur actually coached. Because if it's your son that you're coaching, I mean, come on, let's just be serious about it, okay? So when Shedeur goes into a different ecosystem, when he goes into a different atmosphere, what is going to happen when he has to, talk to and to work with other people? So they're concerned about that. I think it was an AFC GM or something like that, and then also a scout or a coach said it's the worst interviews that they ever had of a prospective player coming into the draft. The worst interview that they've ever had. His body language, his attitude, they felt like he was demeaning them, like, you're below me, you know. Whew. And you kind of saw that in Deion Sanders and Coach Prime's press conferences. Very confrontational, very, it's us against the world. And it sounds like And look, I can understand some of it, but it sounds like that that rubbed off on Shedeur. Instead of him being humble, instead of him being, just ready to go get it, and the media, because they need access to Deion Sanders and because they like Deion Sanders, they covered up for Deion this whole time, and they also have been covering it up for Shedeur. And this has not helped him in his draft prospects. These are the reasons why Shedeur Sanders is falling in the draft. Um, I saw the games. I saw a lot. I mean, I saw almost all of the first year games. The second year games, I caught a few of them. Shedeur Sanders is a baller. He's in college. He was a baller. The problem is that it's the problem is always how is it going to translate into the NFL, and that's very difficult. It's very difficult to try to see how that is. So the intangible things, they do matter, but also, like one of the scouts said, he's just not that good. You're not that good to be doing the things that you're doing. So it's okay if he falls in the draft. He's almost certainly going to be drafted, and it's going to be very interesting to see how he translates from the college game to the NFL game. Look, we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out. Is he a good quarterback or not? Because almost certainly he's going to go to the perfect place where he can sit for a year. He probably needs to sit for a year anyway, because the guy has been hit a lot. He's been hit a lot. We haven't talked about his negatives enough. Okay. And so he needs to sit for a year, let his body rest, get his mind right. Get your mind right, because after you take all of those hits that you have taken as a quarterback, you need to get your mind right. You need to be coached up. So are you coachable? Because your dad was your coach for your whole life. Your dad was your coach, which is awesome. Just like I said yesterday, giving Coach Prime props for being a great father, for mentoring young men, especially young black men, because we need that in the black community. We need for black men and black women, for that matter, to look at what Coach Prime did and basically emulate that in our communities and in our families. Okay, because there's not enough mentorship. There's not enough. Here's my gift. I'm going to offer it to you, because Coach Prime could have been doing a lot of other things with his time, right? Could have been doing a lot of other things with his time. And yeah, I know he's making a lot of money right now, but that was never guaranteed. And I'm sure that he wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to coach my boys, and then I'm going to be a college coach. That probably was never in his mind when he's coaching his 8-year-old sons, 7-year-old sons. It was for the love of the game. It was for the love of his children. It was for the love of coaching young men, young boys at the time. I really believe that. And then it just so happened, well, hey, I might as well do this thing, and he was paid for it. I'm so happy for him and his family. I'm so happy for Travis Hunter. I'm so happy for all of the young men who got to be around greatness as a football player and also as a man. Okay, I so love that. But we all have learning to do, and Shedeur Sanders now, he is learning about life. He's learning that when you go to another ecosystem, when you go in Rome, what you do as the Romans do, right? Now, I'm gonna change it up a little bit, because you don't want to do everything that the Romans do. That's for sure. But the thing is that, let's just take a look at Joseph. Joseph, when he was sold into slavery by his family, and then remember, his family is primo, is Jacob, it's the house of Jacob, the house of Israel, right? Okay, it's primo, baby. So he gets sold into slavery by his brothers to Egypt. He has to go to a whole nother ecosystem, right? He's coming out of his ecosystem as a 17-year-old young man, and he's going into Egypt, a whole different ecosystem. He has to know how to survive in that new ecosystem, and guess what he did? He did that. So he went to prison. He got, propositioned by Potiphar's wife. He survived. He survived that, okay? He didn't think that he was, the big stuff. Oh, yeah, my father, yeah, he wrestled with God. I mean, come on. Joseph, Joseph could have been in the prison talking big stuff, thinking that he was all that and a bag of chips. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna be, friendly with you Egyptians. I'm from the house of Israel. My father, he he wrestled with God, you know, and he lived to tell about it. I mean, come on. No, he was humble. He knew how to go from one ecosystem to the other ecosystem without changing who he was and not losing his identity. And what happened to him? He was promoted to the highest office in Egypt, other than the Pharaoh, and put in charge of everything because he knew how to navigate a new ecosystem that he was not from. Glory be to God. And so it's very, very important. You don't have to lose your confidence if you are Shedeur Sanders and you are a Sanders and you guys think a certain way and you act a certain way and all this other kind of stuff. You don't have to lose your confidence. You don't have to lose your vision of who you are. But at the same time, you do need to kind of be aware, self-aware about what's going on, how other people view you or may view you. And there, quite frankly, are some good reasons for that. I don't like that he's a rapper. You know, I don't like all the hip hop stuff. I don't like all the bravado. All that kind of stuff. Come on, man. Come on. Like that's kind of not, again, that's your ecosystem. Oh yeah, I'm Deion Sanders' son, and we prime time and all. Okay, that's nice. But when it comes down to you going into an NFL locker room, and it comes down to you actually being impressing your new bosses, the owner of the team, the GM, the coaching staff, whole different thing, a whole different ball game. And is some of it racial? Are there some racial overtones to this? Maybe. It's possibly true. I'm not gonna say that there's not. One thing that they're throwing out there is like, why is the Sanders kid being treated like this, but Eli Manning wasn't treated like this? When his dad stepped in and wanted him to go to the Giants instead of going to San Diego. Why wasn't John Elway treated like that when he, didn't want to go to the Colts? I'm pretty sure it was, back in 1984. I can't think of any other times that happened, but so I get it. I get that, but at the same time, we also have to take accountability for the things that we have to take accountability for. And as young people and as parents, we need to make sure that our children adapt into the new areas that they're going to go into. We need to be self-aware. We need to understand what our families' weaknesses and things that we have to work on is, and we need to pass it down to our children. We pass down our strengths to our children, but we also pass down our weaknesses at times. And we need to be self-aware of that, and we need to work on it. And we need to just, have a positive attitude and not always think that the world is out to get us. It's just that sometimes we have a hard time fitting into the world, and sometimes it's for good reasons. It's not for bad reasons that we have a hard time fitting into the world. It's not because of our race all the time, or because of our gender, or because of our religion all the time. Not all the time. Sometimes it's just because we need to grow. It's just because that we need to grow. We need to work harder. We need to be better. Maybe this is not your line of work. Maybe he's not supposed to be an NFL quarterback. We're gonna find out. And so that's what came to mind to me when I thought about what happened to Shedeur Sanders sliding in the draft. What do you think?